Right now, your dog is talking. Not with sound, not with the obvious signals you already know. The wagging tail, the flattened ears, the belly roll. Something far subtler. Something most people spend an entire lifetime with a dog and never once learn to read. There is a language running along the length of a dog's spine. A sequence of micro-postures so small, so fast, so embedded in the ordinary movements of a dog's body that even experienced owners miss them completely. Ethologists call them spinal microcues, and what they communicate, once you learn to see them, is something that will permanently change the way you understand every dog you have ever known. But here is what makes this genuinely fascinating. These signals weren't designed, they weren't taught, they evolved over tens of thousands of years as a communication system so precise that dogs use it to transmit information that words, even if dogs had them, might fail to capture. And the question that researchers are only beginning to answer is this: are we the intended audience? To understand what spinal microcues are, we first need to understand something that most dog owners don't realize. A dog's spine is not just a structural support. It is an emotional display organ. In 2006, ethologist Simon Gadboy and his colleagues began cataloging something that had been hiding in plain sight in decades of canine observation footage. When dogs interacted with each other and with humans, there were consistent, repeating patterns of spinal movement that preceded, accompanied, and followed emotional states with remarkable regularity. Not tail movement, not ear position, the spine itself, the curvature of the back, the height of the shoulders relative to the hips, the angle of the neck where it meets the body, the degree of lateral flexibility or rigidity across the lumbar region. These were not random variations in posture. They were signals, consistent enough across individuals and breeds to suggest something systematic, something that had been there all along, unread. Q1 is perhaps the most common and the most misread. Researchers call it the anterior load shift. It happens when a dog's weight moves subtly forward, shoulders dropping fractionally lower than the hips, the neck elongating, the rear rising almost imperceptibly. Most people, if they notice it at all, read it as alertness or curiosity or the beginning of play. But the weight of the evidence suggests it means something more specific: controlled approach drive. The dog is moving towards something, but choosing to approach. The key word is choosing. In wolves, this posture precedes voluntary social approach. In domestic dogs, it precedes everything from greeting to investigation to the first move in a play sequence. What it communicates, to other dogs who can read it, is intention without aggression. I am coming. I am choosing to come. Think about the last time your dog walked toward a stranger at the park. Was his weight forward or back? The answer was a complete sentence. You just didn't have the grammar. Q2 is subtler, and its implications are stranger. Researchers call it the lumbar freeze. It is not a full-body freeze. It is a moment of complete rigidity specifically in the lower back, lasting sometimes less than half a second, while the rest of the body continues moving normally. This is one of the micro-cues most easily confused with nothing, a blip in movement that owners typically interpret as the dog simply adjusting its gait. But in studies of dog-dog interaction, the lumbar freeze appears consistently at decision points, moments when a dog is processing competing motivational states: approach or withdraw, engage or disengage, stay or go. The freeze is not the decision, it is the deliberation made visible. What this means, and what I find genuinely remarkable, is that dogs appear to have a physical correlate of ambivalence, a moment when the body literally pauses while the brain works something out, and they broadcast it to every dog around them who is watching. If you've never seen a dog this way before, as a creature transmitting a continuous, structured stream of information that most of us have never learned to receive, you're not alone. Subscribe, and we'll go further into this hidden world together. Q3 is the one that changed how researchers think about dog communication entirely: the dorsal ripple. It is a wave of muscular tension and then release that moves from the shoulders towards the hips, lasting roughly 1 to 2 seconds. It is not a shiver. It is not a shake-off. It has a specific directionality, a specific rhythm, and it occurs almost exclusively in social contexts. Ethologist Barbara Smuts, whose work on interspecies communication remains foundational, documented the dorsal ripple in sequences of dog-dog play that were about to transition into something else: rest, conflict, separation. The ripple appeared at these transitional moments with striking consistency. Current thinking, and this is still hypothesis, not settled science, is that the dorsal ripple may function as a reset signal. A postural punctuation mark that communicates, whatever just happened between us, I am neutralizing my own state. I am not carrying it forward. If that interpretation is correct, dogs may possess something that functions like a physical gesture of closure, a way of signaling through the body that a social episode has ended and a new one can begin. Think about what that means the next time you see your dog shake off after an interaction. That might not be nothing. Q4 is the one that reveals the most about the relationship between dogs and humans specifically. The cervical tilt. It is a slight lateral displacement of the neck, not the familiar head tilt of confusion or attentiveness, but a sustained low-degree rotation at the point where the neck meets the shoulder. It is so small that it rarely registers consciously. But here is what makes it extraordinary. Studies comparing dog behavior with wolves and with dogs' responses to different categories of individuals found that the cervical tilt occurs almost exclusively in interactions with humans, and almost exclusively with humans the dog knows. Not with strangers, not with other dogs, with their people. Researchers, including Giuliani Kaminsky at the University of Portsmouth, have documented that dogs develop individualized communication adjustments for the specific humans in their lives, postures, movements, and orientations that they produce with one person but not another. The cervical tilt appears to be part of this individualized vocabulary, a signal shaped by a specific relationship, expressed through a micro-movement so subtle that the human receiver almost never consciously perceives it. And yet, if you have ever had the sensation that your dog is somehow especially attentive to you, more tuned in than they are to anyone else, this may be part of the reason. There was a language being spoken in your direction, in your specific direction, that has been refined over years of knowing you. Q5 is the most recently identified, and in some ways the most philosophically provocative. Researchers call it the sacral bracket. It involves a very slight upward and inward movement of the hindquarters, almost undetectable without slow-motion footage, that creates a subtle tucking of the pelvis without a tail tuck. It is not the full-body posture of fear or submission. It is smaller than that, more internal. It appears most consistently in situations of mild social uncertainty, not threat, not fear, but something closer to what we might call caution. A dog in a new environment, a dog watching an unfamiliar interaction, a dog awaiting an outcome it cannot predict. The sacral bracket has attracted particular attention because it does not appear to be directed at anyone. It is not a signal sent toward another animal or a human. It appears to be a self-regulation posture, a way the dog manages its own arousal state. Which raises a question that goes to the heart of current debates in animal consciousness research. Is a dog aware of its own emotional state in a way that causes it to regulate that state physically? We cannot answer that yet, but the sacral bracket suggests that something like that process may be occurring, not in language, not in abstraction, but in the body, in real time, invisible to almost everyone. These 5 micro cues, the anterior load shift, the lumbar freeze, the dorsal ripple, the cervical tilt, the sacral bracket, are not a complete dictionary. They are 5 words in a language that researchers are only beginning to transcribe. The full vocabulary runs through ear position, facial muscle movement, respiratory rhythm, ocular orientation, and a dozen other channels being studied simultaneously. The picture that emerges of a creature transmitting a continuous, structured, emotionally complex stream of information through its entire body is not the simple animal of popular imagination. It is something stranger, something older, something that has been broadcasting on frequencies we never tuned into for the entire duration of our relationship. And personally, I find that one of the most humbling things I've encountered in any study of animal behavior. Not that dogs have been hiding something from us, but that they've been speaking all along, and we simply never knew how to listen. Which brings us to the next layer of this investigation. Because once you understand that dogs communicate through the body, through posture, through micromovement, through the signals embedded in ordinary motion, the next question follows immediately. What are they listening for in ours? Because the evidence suggests that dogs read human bodies with a sophistication that mirrors and in some ways surpasses our ability to read theirs. And that discovery changes everything.